Hello, ghosties. You're listening to Not My Ghost.
Not My Problem. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Jen.
Whether you're a skeptic, a true believer, or somewhere in between, join us for a journey into the unknown.
Because remember, when it comes to the paranormal, it may not be our problem.
But it's certainly someone's problem.
Kelly is still haunted.
I am. I heard some noises and I thought, my daughter is upstairs. I am upstairs. I think she's getting ready to take a shower. I heard what sounded like footsteps right next to me, like 2 footsteps walk up to me. And I was in the middle of telling Jen that it's possible it could have been Katie walking to the bathroom and the sound traveled. So it sounded like it was in the room with me. And as I was telling her that, I have a bag sitting on the bed behind me that Jen saw all the way on the bed earlier.
All the way on the bed.
And it just fell off.
I did not see it fall off. Unfortunately, you had moved and it was like hidden
though.
By your shoulder. Oh, I heard it. I don't know what to say.
And then you saw me pick it up and put it back on the bed.
Yes, I can see it now, so I have to pay attention if it moves again.
I was really going to say, I think we have to just assume it's Katie, and then that happened.
Yeah, guess it was trying to tell you that, hey, bitch, it's not Katie.
I guess so.
As a ghost. I don't think we said this in the last episode, but Kelly brought Ellen with her. I know we said that when she was here visiting, but she left her here.
I did.
I have custody of Ellen until I come visit her in May.
Correct.
And Ellen is not at her house.
No.
And you've had a lot of shit happen.
I have. I still have stuff that jumps off the desk. And I don't mean it like slides off or falls off. I mean it lifts in the air and flies over.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't have... Okay, I saw Ellie behind you, and for some reason, it translated into it's behind me. And I was like, what? Because it's on that side of our split screen, and I got a little scared for a second. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's fine. Ellie just decided it's time to play. So if you hear dog noises, that's her. I apologize.
Okay. What was I saying, Jen? Oh, I don't have an activity like as often as I did necessarily when Ellen was here.
I don't know. I think you're having it pretty often.
Do you?
What about the footsteps you all heard when you were downstairs?
That's true.
Everybody heard that.
Everybody heard it.
And then the light turning on and off?
The light in the bedroom was turning on.
Yeah.
I've had stuff fly off the desk in here.
It was quiet a couple of days ago when we recorded the first Old Jail episode.
Yeah, nothing happened.
And Ellen's been pretty quiet here, which, you know, she took a while to get used to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a couple of hits on the REM pod, but nothing crazy. Though, funny thing was the first day I got my REM pod, because Ellen really likes to interact with Kelly's REM pod, so I bought one. And the first day I got it, I had it on for hours. Nothing. No beeps, no interaction, nothing. And I moved it out of my room while I was working, and I moved it back in, like into the living room where I was sitting. Nothing. And then my friend calls me, and as soon as we start talking on the phone, the REM pod starts going off. Now, this was the same friend that was hanging out with Kelly and I when she was here.
Yes, and we will get more into later on.
We will.
About how Ellen knows this friend. Are we allowed to say this friend's name on the podcast?
Yeah, we've said his name. It's my friend Stefan.
Okay. We will get into a little bit more about why we think Ellen prefers Stefan.
When he was here, she was interacting with the REM pod while he was here. She didn't really interact with the REM pod much other times except when he was here. So the fact that I talked on the phone with him, actually that happened twice. He called me on 2 different days at 2 different times. And the REM pod was in 2 totally different locations both times because I like to move it around. So I know I always thought too, like, could it be the phone triggering it? But when I've been on the phone with other people, it hasn't triggered. It only triggers when I'm on the phone with him.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, welcome to our scripted, unscripted banter part.
Oh, yeah. Good job at remembering.
This episode's going to be structured a little differently. We are going to finish the part of the last part one's episode of the old jail, where we're going to go through the hauntings that you would expect to see at the old jail. But then we're going to talk more about our investigation there. And we're going to throw in a little bonus about something that we tried at Jen's apartment. But I do have a question for you.
Good, because I do not have one for you.
What is a hobby that you just don't understand?
Oh, you go first.
Golf.
I knew you were going to say that.
How boring. I don't know how I'm entertained. I just need more stimulation than that. Right. My ADHD brain needs that stimulate. That is
stimulation in golf, Kelly, is the drinking in between each hole. And it also has to do with who you're playing with.
That's what she said.
You can't, if you're playing by yourself, like, yes, I can see where that is boring. But by the way, I do play golf. I haven't played golf in like 2 years, but I do have my own clubs. I have golfed in the past. And if you're with people you like and you're hanging out and it's a nice day, you're enjoying the scenery, the nice weather, and getting drunk. That's the stimulation. It's relaxing in between your turns. It's also incredibly frustrating.
No, I just can't. I can drink at home with my friends. And I'm not that big of a drinker. I did get accidentally drunk last week.
Yeah. But you keep saying that, but what about, like, it's the only sport that I know of.
Stop it. Sport.
It's a sport.
Come on.
It is.
I stand up for 3 seconds and swing a club and hit a ball.
Have you seen Tiger Woods? Well, I don't know recently, but he's pretty jacked.
Okay, maybe he works out, but I'm sure it's not from golf.
But it helps him golf. You have to be athletic to be good, which is why I always sucked.
I love the honesty. I love it. I love it. I love it. I just don't get it. It's not for me. It's not for me.
That's fair. I get it. I've never got really into watching golf. Now, I have been to the Players Championship a couple of years ago because Players is in Point Vedra, Florida, which is like 20 minutes from where I live. So before I moved here, me, my ex, and my brother all went to the Players Tournament, and we stayed with my parents who live in this area. And that's fun because there's big name people. Unfortunately, Tiger didn't play. I was very sad. But there's big name people you're following, again, drinking, out in the nice weather.
Big name people. I could not name another golfer besides Tiger Woods.
That's fair.
If you offered me $1 billion, I could not give you another name.
I couldn't now.
Unless we're talking like, does Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore count?
No, he does not count. But no, okay, I get it.
I mean, I don't understand golf for me, but if it works for somebody else, I understand that, but not like, I just don't get it.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm never going to bash anyone else's hobby.
Right. So what's a thing that other people do that you're like, nah, that sounds boring, or
go to the gym every day. I talk to people all the time where they're like, oh yeah, I work out every day. I do this every day. And I'm like, why? I mean, I get why, but like, how do you have that much motivation and discipline? Yeah. I guess that's a hobby. I don't get it.
For some people, it definitely is a hobby.
Yeah. I have to force myself to do it, but I get that it's slow and you can't just go to every day. Like, I have made for those who have an Apple Watch, you have the activity where you have the 3 rings, stand, calories burned, and exercise minutes. I have made all 3 of my rings close every day this year.
Woohoo!
Woo! So I'm trying to get into that habit of just being slightly more active. And that just requires me to get up every hour while I'm working and like jog in place so I can get my steps in. But it's better than sitting on my ass all day.
Yeah, I've been doing that as well. And then I've started doing like beginner's yoga. And I saw a
Ooh.
friend of mine today who is a yoga instructor. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm doing this like 10-minute yoga for beginners. And it's just like, I can't do it. And it's like supposed to be for beginners.
Yeah.
And then she reminded me that yoga for beginners is geared towards people in their 20s that are still very flexible and limber. So
okay.
not for fat old ladies. So she showed me how to modify some of the stuff they were doing so I can build up to the beginner's yoga.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So last week we talked about the history of the old jail. So as Kelly said, we're going to kind of finish that up with giving you some of the common paranormal experiences that people have. As we said, the old jail has a very dark and violent past, and it's no wonder that it is considered one of the most haunted locations in St. Augustine. Visitors often report strange and unsettling occurrences, adding to the jail's reputation. Some hear eerie dog barks echoing through the night, while others feel inexplicable cold drafts that chill them to the bone, which I would have loved to heard a dog bark.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I didn't read anything about there being a dog there, but I'm cool with that.
It would have been cool.
Yeah. Some claim to see ghostly figures crossing the main entrance only for them to vanish mid-step as if they were never there at all. During the nightly tours, guests have had unsettling experiences of their own. Invisible hands grabbing at their ankles, unseen fingers raking down their backs, and the haunting sound of banging against the walls when no one else is around. I just thought about this when I read the phrase grabbing at their ankles. When I was in one of the cells, I think I was upstairs, I felt something on my ankle, but it was so brief and so light that I couldn't say it was something touching me. I said it in my video because I felt it, but I couldn't, it didn't feel like something was grabbing me, but it was definitely something. But you know how sometimes you get those random like heartbeats or whatever?
Yeah. Pant leg pulls the wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just enough that I mentioned it in the video, but not enough to where I was like, oh my God, I was touched. So.
Right.
Orbs of light are often spotted zipping through the darkness, leaving behind an aura of mystery and uncertainty. Perhaps the most chilling part of the jail is solitary confinement, where visitors are dared to spend time alone in the far left corner. It is said that a shadowy figure lingers in this area, scurrying quickly towards anyone brave enough to sit there. Many who have taken this challenge recount seeing the figure, and some have even discovered unexplained scratches on their bodies the following day. Some believe the shadowy figure could be a lingering remnant of one of the jail's infamous inmates, such as Sim Jackson, who was hanged after murdering his wife, or Charlie Powell, who was arrested for beheading a man. But some also then claim that there is something far more sinister at play. Now, I was a little disappointed with solitary.
Yeah, very.
They had that, what was it called?
It's like a portal box. So it's kind of like it's like a spirit box on crack.
Yeah. And they had it set in there, and they also had a light in there. So I know we had talked before we went, said that we both wanted to spend some time in solitary alone and to kind of just get that feeling to see if we could trigger anything.
And we did both spend time there alone, but they just had it too bright in there. And that spirit box, that portal thing really, like a piece of equipment like that has its place, but they had it there kind of permanently throughout the night. And it just didn't serve the purposes that we had in mind that we would like to do in that cell. So
yeah, especially considering that's supposed to be one of the most haunted areas. We were definitely a little disappointed that we couldn't interact more. And I'm sure if we would have went and asked them to turn it off, they probably would have. They were very accommodating.
They really were. The guides were the guides that we had there, they were very kind. They were very knowledgeable about the equipment and the paranormal.
Yeah.
Could not recommend this enough to somebody that wants to
100%.
see it. Yeah, like it was a great experience.
Okay, some other paranormal experiences that people have claimed are disembodied voices. So people often report hearing voices, whispers, or cries throughout the jail. And these sounds often come from empty cells or areas where no one else is present. Visitors often frequently report sudden or intense cold spots, particularly in areas like consolatory or along the corridors. These chills are often felt without any logical explanation, even when the temperature elsewhere in the building is normal. Now, obviously, we went in January, so the entire building was one big fucking cold spot because it happened to be 30 degrees that night. But in general, it's Florida, so...
Yeah.
Many people also claim to see shadowy figures or apparitions moving throughout the jail. These figures often appear as dark silhouettes and vanish when approached. Some visitors had reported seeing full-bodied apparitions, while others say they've only caught a glimpse of a face or a hand. We did not get to see any full-bodied apparitions. Ankle grabbing, as I said before, or scratching. Many people report something at their ankles or scratching their backs. Some even say they feel invisible hands touching them or pulling at them when they walk away from certain areas, such as the lower levels or solitary confinement. Also in solitary, several visitors have claimed to see that shadowy figure move towards them. It is often described as something that scurries quickly towards them and then disappears. For anyone here who has watched the TV show Kindred Spirits, Amy saw this scurrying shadowy figure when she was in one of the rooms. Wasn't in one of the cells. It was in like one of the rooms. And she saw it, like, I guess, out of the corner of her eye and didn't catch it on camera, unfortunately, but she did see it. Some visitors have also reported objects that they have placed in one area of the jail, like personal belongings or equipment, that disappear without explanation, only to reappear later in a different location. Now, there was a ton of equipment spread throughout the jail, both stuff that we had and then stuff that the guides had set up beforehand.
They
I don't
really
think anything moved.
No, they really offer a lot of ghost hunting equipment. So don't think that if you want to go there and do one of these like 2-hour in the middle of the night investigations, that you have to have ghost hunting equipment.
You don't.
You really don't.
They pretty much have everything.
Yeah.
We are professionals, right? So we, of course, brought all of our own stuff. The only thing they had that we didn't have was a thermal camera.
Well, and the bear.
Right. Okay. Yeah. They did have like the little REM pod bear thing.
Yeah.
But we have a REM pod, so similar enough.
Well, that bear talked and asked questions.
That's true. It did. So that was a little bit different.
Yeah.
That's true. But yeah, everything else, as he's explaining all the equipment, I'm like pulling it out of our backpack. Like, we got this. We got that. We don't need, when he comes up, like, okay, come grab whatever you want. I'm like, I just want a thermal. That's all we need.
Yeah.
We literally have everything else. And kudos to Kelly, who carried around that heavy backpack all night. I didn't even realize how heavy it was until she handed it to me at the end of the night because she had to go to the bathroom. And I was like, fuck, you've been carrying this all night? I'm so sorry.
And the next day I was like, my back kind of hurts. I wonder why.
We brought way too much shit. We didn't even use some of it.
We didn't know how much time we would have without other people. Yeah, like our motion detector alarms, like that would have been a disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's too many people there.
Yeah. And then we had like battery packs in case anything got drained. So, things you need and you're investigating the paranormal. But next time we investigate Kelly, we'll have 2 backpacks and we'll split up the weight.
Okay, that sounds like a good idea.
I think so too. Many people have also reported seeing orbs of light zipping by, especially in the darkened areas of the jail. These orbs seem to move with a purpose, almost like they're leading people through the building, but their source remains unknown. Now, we did get a couple of little anomalies on the camera, but I'm so skeptical when it comes to orbs that I'm not even going to put any of that out there because most likely it was dust.
Yeah. You watch a lot of shows. Well, not a lot of shows. You watch a particular show and any little light anomaly, it's like, did you see that? This ball of energy just entered his butthole. Like, it's just, come on, guys. It was dust. It was a bug.
I agree. Now, numerous guests have said they feel a strong sense of being watched, particularly in the darker, more secluded areas of the jail. This sensation is often described as heavy, oppressive, and a feeling that builds the longer they stay in certain areas. I definitely didn't get anything like that.
I didn't feel that either.
No, the only place I got even slightly uncomfortable when I first walked in was that little shower area. But it probably was more claustrophobic than it was paranormal, just because it was a smaller area.
I didn't like that either. And then I had an experience that unfortunately your camera died right before it happened. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yes. So these experiences, combined with the jail's violent history, do create a compelling and chilling atmosphere that many believe is haunted by the restless spirits who suffer within its walls. We briefly talked about last week Charlie Powell, who's one of the most well-known figures associated with the jail's hauntings. And as we said last week, Powell was arrested for brutally beheading a man who spread rumors about his wife. His violent and gruesome acts makes him a prime candidate for lingering spirits, and many visitors do claim to encounter his presence. People that experience Powell report feelings of unsettling coldness, especially in his former cell, which no one really pointed out where he was kept. No. I would imagine probably death row. He was hung.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Some have claimed to hear disembodied whispers or voices saying his name, while others have seen shadowy figures resembling a tall man moving throughout the jail, often disappearing as quickly as it appears. Witnesses also report that Powell's spirit appears to interact with visitors, sometimes even responding to questions or making physical contact. So we used his name. We attempted to talk to him, but we didn't really get anything.
Mm-mm.
Another common report in the old jail is the sheriff or some of the prison guards that are still on the premise. Now, these figures are often seen wearing uniforms from the late 19th or early 20th century, and they appear to be walking the corridors as if they were standing watch over the cells. Visitors often report catching a glimpse of the figure in a dark uniform moving throughout the doorways or near the cells, only for it to vanish when approached. The ghostly guards seem to be stuck in a routine, performing duties that were once part of their everyday life, which, if that's the case, that suggests a residual haunt and not an intelligent one. Some also believe that these figures could be the spirits of former jailers who were killed or passed away while working at the jail, and their duty and responsibility to the site keeps them tethered to the physical world. Now, I think we said it last week, but one of the couples that was there at the investigation with us had been there several times. And they said that whenever she is there, the woman, Joseph Perry, who was the awful sheriff, always usually interacts with her. We didn't get anything, unfortunately, this time, at least not when we were hanging out with them. But they had a bunch of stories of different times that they've interacted and things that they've caught with him. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to it.
Yeah,
hearing
for sure.
Their experiences.
And even the guide that was there, obviously, he works the tour pretty often. So he knew them pretty well and knew of their experiences. So he was kind of backing them up with like, this shit happens all the time when they're here.
Yeah.
Now, as I said, the show has been investigated on several different paranormal shows. I think the only one that I did watch The Ghost Hunters. I did manage to find the clip of it on YouTube because it was from the original days. But nothing really happened when Ghost Hunters came. But Kindred Spirits came, The Dead Files, which I haven't heard of, and everybody's favorite Ghost Adventures. And they have explored... They have explored this site. And then most recently, which I guess it might be out or coming out soon, but Sam and Colby, as our guide told us while we were there, had just investigated a couple of weeks before we did. So they're probably going to have something that comes out if it's not out already. Okay, so over the years, numerous pieces of evidence have been gathered, including EVPs, some video footage, and personal accounts from visitors and investigations. EVPs, and for those who don't know, EVP is electronic voice phenomenon. Where you can record on a voice recorder and it's ask questions and it's supposed to then, spirits are supposed to be able to then communicate where you can hear it when you listen back. But people have caught things, clear phrases such as help me and get out. Video footage taken during investigation often shows unexplainable movements in dark corners or objects moving on their own, shadows crossing walls, or figures in frames that were previously empty. Visitors and investigators alike have reported feeling coldness and sudden shifts in air pressure and intense sensations of being watched during these investigations.
I did not experience that kind of stuff.
No, I did not either. But we were only there for 2 hours.
Right. And there was a lot of people there too. So that kind of disrupts the energy of an investigation, like especially the concentration on what you are experiencing when there's so much noise and other people around.
Absolutely. 100%. I would definitely go back, but only if I could book like the day of and know that there were like 6 or less people there.
I would prefer nobody.
Well, I agree, but that's probably rare.
Yeah. It would be kind of cool though if we did that and it was just us and then the 2 guides and we just had them come join us. Let's do an investigation.
Yeah, I agree. I did read before we went, I read a couple of just like reviews on Reddit, and someone had said that they went and there was only 4 people. So it was them and then another couple.
That would have been awesome.
And they split up. So because you know how we did the first hour downstairs and the second hour upstairs, they did that too. But basically when you were downstairs, you had the entire downstairs to yourself.
Yeah.
Which, while you could hear a lot, we didn't really hear anything coming from upstairs. You can't hear like footsteps walking around or anything like that.
No, I didn't notice anything like that.
No, me neither. Are you ready to talk about our experience?
I am.
I mean, not that we haven't been doing it this whole time.
Right. But, you know.
The first weird thing that happened when we first got to the old jail, and now we had tested all of our equipment at my apartment.
All of it.
All of it, right before we left.
Everything was charged,
ready to go, working. We both bought brand new camcorders off of Amazon. You know, not anything crazy, but you know, something. And we both turned them on that night because we wanted to make sure we knew how to switch it to infrared. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to see anything. And they were both working just fine. And we get to the old jail and I pull out my camera. Everything's good. Kelly pulls out her camera and it freezes on the home screen. And no matter what we did, we could not fix it. We tried resetting it, switching because each camera came with 2 batteries. So we had a total of 4 batteries with us.
We even looked up online we even looked up online to troubleshoot, like how to fix this problem if it happens.
We tried all of that. Ironically, Kelly and I both bought the same exact camcorder from Amazon independently of each other.
We did.
So it worked because we were able to swap batteries, but hers didn't work as soon as we got to the old jail. Yep. And then when we got home, it still wasn't working. You ended up returning it to Amazon.
I did.
So not necessarily paranormal. It was a new piece of equipment, but weird that it was working and then wasn't.
As soon as we got there.
Yeah. Just something to note. And we want to say everything that we have to present you guys, as I think we talked about last week, we can't single-handedly say that anything we're going to present is paranormal because there was way too much noise pollution, way too many other people that were there, and nothing that we got screams paranormal. We have some interesting things that we're going to share, but we just want you to know that we're not being like, we caught a ghost. We're very skeptical, as you all know. We just noted some interesting things, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, because there were a lot of people, so
yeah,
it's hard to like review evidence when there's so much going on.
Yeah,
in in the jail with other people. If you see a shadow on a recorder, well, it literally could just be one of the other people's shadows walking around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you hear a voice, again, there were 14 people in the building, and they did split them up. So there were 7 and 7 on each floor. But as I stressed in last week's episode, this jail is not that big.
Not at all.
7 people in, for an investigation is a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, all right. So when we first went in to the jail, they gave us a little bit of the history, and then they took us into the kitchen area where they went over all the paranormal equipment and everything. And again, Kelly and I have pretty much all of it. So, and we watch all the shows, so we know what everything is. But it was a really informative information session. So if any of you guys are thinking about it, but you're like, I don't really know what any of the equipment is, they give you a rundown. In fact, as an experienced investigator, I've been on 2 investigations. As someone who watches all the ghost shows, I wish that I could have skipped that and just went straight to the investigating.
Right, because we didn't need that information, and it kind of ate up a lot of our time that we had there.
They still give you, so it is a total of 2.5 hours. The first half hour is like information and what was that?
It sounded like something just knocked on the closet door.
Well, I guess you got to go answer the...
I'm going to check the closet and see if anything in the closet fell.
Okay. This is why we wouldn't survive in a horror movie, Kelly. That's where the serial killer is hiding.
Nothing fell.
I'm impressed that your closet is clean enough that you could tell if something fell.
It's not my stuff in that closet. I gave it to Rebecca and Devin so they could get some stuff out of her room.
Okay.
But
I'm just not a comment on your cleanliness, but more so on mine. I'm sure you saw my closets while you were here. I could not tell.
I will show you mine when you were here, and you will know that if it was my closet, I would have been like, something fell.
Something fell, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That was interesting, though.
Closets. Yesterday, when I finished working, so I work in my bedroom, and I'm kind of in the one corner, my closet's on the far end. I logged off my computer, I signed off, and I stood up, pushed my chair in, and I started to walk out. My closet door was open. And I don't leave my closet door open. Like,
sounds like Ellen.
I've always had a weird thing for closets ever since I was a kid. So my closet door is closed. Like, unless I'm like literally getting ready and trying on 12 different outfits, my closet door is closed. But I was in my room, so I didn't hear it open.
I don't know.
It was weird. Did I probably just leave it open? Probably. But the thing is that I'd already taken my lunch break. So like I've already got up from my desk and moved, and I would have
seen
noticed
it open. Right.
And I don't think I went in there for any other reason during the day. It was weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to the investigation. ADHD sidetrack. Sorry. Y'all get what you get. Okay. So after they went through the entire kind of like rundown of all the tools, they split us up into 2 different groups, and one group went upstairs and our group stayed downstairs. Now, during this first part, he actually gave us a quick tour of just the downstairs, told us which each of the cells were. And then the other 3 people that were in our group went over to the sheriff's quarters where we stayed in the cells. And that was probably the best time we had because we were far enough that we really didn't have too much noise pollution.
Right. And it was really just us.
Yeah, it was. Now, we first started in solitary because that was what we had read the most about and we were really excited. But as we said earlier, they had the spirit box thing going on, and it just wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be.
No.
We asked a couple questions. We did a voice recording session, but we didn't really have anything that really happened. One time we did leave solitary, and then on the spirit box, the word "you" came through. And then we like went back in because we thought it was talking to us like right after we left, but then nothing happened. So we kind of just moved on. Then after solitary, we went into death row. Now, I know last week we talked about death row and how the window in death row was literally open to the gallows. So as you're sitting in death row, you get to see the gallows that you're going to eventually get hung on, which is pretty awful. Do you want to tell them what you saw there, Kelly?
We were wandering kind of in and out of the different cells there. There was an infirmary down there, and there's 2 women's cells. I was in death row, I think by myself at this point. Behind the building where the gallows are, they do have lights up. So the gallows are illuminated so you can see them.
Yeah.
And I had walked over to the window and I looked out and I saw the shadow of a person walking like behind the gallows. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he really liked Joe Rogan, so we're going to call him Joe.
That definitely wasn't his name, but we're going to go with that.
It wasn't his name, but
yeah,
he liked Joe Rogan. He was talking to us about the podcast, so we're going to call the guy Joe. I asked him if anybody was outside, because you could walk around kind of the other side of the gallows.
Did you hear that? Was that your stomach?
No.
That's not your stomach?
No, it sounded like it was coming from over there.
I caught that.
By the door. Now that's loud. That might be somebody.
Okay.
But I'm going to peek and see if somebody's in the bathroom. Hold on.
Okay.
Nobody else is upstairs.
Okay.
Because I can hear the 3 other people in the house, I can hear them downstairs talking when I opened the door.
Okay.
What was I saying? Oh, okay. So you could walk around the other side of the gallows to get to the bathroom outside.
Yes.
Not the bathroom itself wasn't outside, but the door to the bathroom that you would
get to the bathroom. Yeah.
Right.
They had a little separate building that had some artifacts in there and the bathrooms. And I think some offices and such. I
asked Joe if anybody had left to go to the bathroom, and he said no. And we will get in a minute about how we would have known if somebody had left the building we were in to go to the bathroom. So I did see the shadow of someone kind of moving around the gallows. Yeah. And unfortunately, my video camera was dead. So if I would have had my camera in my hand, I may have been able to catch it. But
it broke. So she didn't. Nope. Very disappointing. Also in death row, that's where I said that I caught some orbs on the camera, and I say orbs with air quotes. But again, I don't even want to present that as evidence because it was probably dust. And I'm not going to, unless it is literally a ball of light that is clearly not. I have to see a really impressive orb video for me to be oh yeah, that was probably paranormal.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to present that, but I just do want to note it. Again, we're noting everything. We're not saying everything's paranormal. It probably isn't. We also got a clip when we were in death row that, when we were in death row, I think we were just about to walk out. The shadow box that was in solitary, it came through with a word, and I thought it said yup. And Kelly thought it said God. We'll insert it in here so you guys can listen to it and hear it. And then we'll actually also put all the clips on our Patreon. So if you want to go listen to them over and over again, go join our Patreon. And at the very end, after you hear the spirit box and after we talk about it, we joke, oh, did that just say yup or God? There's a weird noise. It kind of sounds like a moan, but I couldn't really place it. Now, again, there were other people in the building, but at this time, we were the only ones in this area. So I do just want to point it out that it could be something. It could also be noise contamination from somebody else.
When we were in that area, we didn't hear them talk. We couldn't really hear anybody else.
Not live, not when we were there, and also not in any of our audio. This was the only noise anomaly that we caught during that time.
And Jen's going to insert that here.
You should go back to the woman's cell. I wish I remembered what this one was. I heard yup. Yup? Yup, you wish you would remember what that room was. So go back, listen to it a couple times. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think it's something? Do you hear the little moan at the end? And again, if you want to listen to it over and over again without having to keep rewind, go join our Patreon because we're going to put
Right.
all our evidence on our Patreon page.
And when Jen says, tell us in the comments, she means on our Instagram page.
or Facebook.
Or Facebook, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we'll see the comment no matter where. YouTube, you can leave comments on YouTube.
Not Spotify, though.
No, I don't think you can in Spotify or Apple. So yeah, Facebook, somewhere socially, let us know.
We're everywhere, so.
We're all the places. It's almost like we're famous, but we're not.
Not at all.
No, not even. Okay, so then after this point, we kind of split up a little bit. So downstairs, there was the women's cell, which was kind of off to the side. Then you had solitary and the infirmary, and then death row, and then the holding cell. So at this point, Kelly was in the women's cell. I was in, I believe, the holding cell. And we both heard a creaking sound, like one of the cell doors opening. Now, to talk about how small this location is, we were probably as far as you could be in the cell area from each other. And we both called out to each other, "Did you just hear that?" And you can hear it. We're going to insert the clip. The clip is 53 seconds long, so you'll be able to hear the noise and then kind of hear us try to debunk it. Now, at that point, we weren't able to really figure anything out. We kind of just assumed that maybe we caught something paranormal.
Right. So Jen's going to insert that clip here.
What is your name? Okay, I just heard what sounded like a cell door open. Hey, Kelly? Yeah? Did you just hear what sounded like a cell door open? Yeah. And that wasn't you? No, where are you? Is this the infirmary? I forget. That room? Right, no, right here. Oh. Where am I? In the women's. Yeah. Which room is this again?
I don't remember. I was in the women's cell that Jay and Grant were in. Uh-huh. And it sounded like it was Yes. I just started my recorder. So I should have. It sounded like it was right next to me.
Yeah, it sounded like it was far away from me, but I still heard it. So that was the clip. Again, you can hear the voice, you can hear us talking about it. And Kelly, do you want to tell them how we debunked that noise?
Yes. We were going, I think we were heading over to the sheriff's quarters. We were kind of starting to move out of that area of the first floor. And as we were walking past the front door of the old jail the door we came in through, I looked at it and thought, I need to hear that door open. So I opened the door and closed it. And Jen and I were both like, that's what we heard. Somebody went outside.
Yeah.
That's also how I know that nobody went outside to go to the bathroom earlier when I saw that shadow, because that sound of that door opening and closing was very loud.
Yeah. And it basically sounded like a cell door creak.
Yeah.
Now, we were going to insert the clip of us testing it in here, but we weren't really smart when we were testing it. We were both talking to each other, and then the guide was also talking. So you really can't hear the noise or the door over our loud mouth. So I'm not going to bother you with inserting that, but just know you've heard the clip of the sound, but we debunked that.
We did. And that's what we're always looking to do, is trying to debunk anything that we think that we are experiencing.
Yeah, we don't want to present anybody with evidence we don't think is actually paranormal, because that's not what we're about.
No, that's not honest. It's not right.
No. I mean, we say it every episode, stay spooky and stay skeptical.
Correct.
We both believe in the paranormal wholeheartedly. We both have had insane experiences, but we also think that the majority of experiences can be explained because they're probably not paranormal.
Yep.
After that, we went over to the sheriff's quarter, and we kind of were hanging out in there for a little bit. And that's when the other couple had come over. Now, they were actually in the other group upstairs, but the woman that was with us was very pregnant, and she had to go to the bathroom at some point. And she basically came back and was like, yeah, I'm not walking back upstairs, which fair. So then she kind of hung downstairs with us. And they were in the sheriff's quarter. And I decided at this point to go back because I didn't really get any time in the women's cell. Now, at this point, when I was in the women's cell, there was the other group of 3 were over in the cells. So all of my evidence was pretty much voice contaminated because that other group was right there. Now, at one point when I was in the women's cell, the group that was out there, they were in the main cell area and I could hear them talking. And I think they were using GhostTube because I could hear the noise of GhostTube.
GhostTube is an app that you have on your phone.
Yeah.
That can it said that spirits can manipulate it and pull out words from a word bank.
Yeah. And they were using GhostTube. And at one point they said something about their camera. And they asked it, do you not like our camera? Because I guess one of their cameras had turned off or something. And as soon as they said that, I had this white flash on my camera. And I immediately was like, holy shit, how cool is that? And then I got up and went and told them, I'm like, as soon as you guys said something about the camera, I got a white flash on my camera. That's so cool. And then I went back and sat back down in the women's cell. And at this time, right before they had said that, I was just about to pull out my phone because I wanted to take some pictures and see if I could capture anything in the women's cell on my camera. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I wanted to take pictures. So I pulled my phone out again and I turned the screen on. And as soon as I turned the screen on, the white flash came right back over my camera. So then I moved my phone around, and every time I turned my screen on, no matter where it was, if it was close to the camera, it had a white flash. So I guess just because of how dark it was, my phone is what caused that flash. So debunked. And I was very, very sad because that would have been really cool timing, but I was able to debunk it. And yeah, Kelly, did anything at that point happen? Anything interesting in the sheriff's quarters?
When I was over in the sheriff's corner with the very pregnant woman and her husband and Joe, they had I don't know if it's like tape that goes around the floor and it's got lights in it. And if something moves or steps on it or touches it, it lights up.
Yeah.
There were a couple of times when nobody was near it that it did light up as the woman was asking questions.
Yeah.
But that's really all that kind of happened. There wasn't, we were more just kind of chatting at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was hearing some of their stories about, things that happen when they're there.
Right. After I left the women's cell, I came and hung out a little bit in the sheriff's quarters as well. I don't really think anything happened too much while we were there. The one guy did have the little flashlight that you tried to do the flashlight trick where you unscrew the top, and that way if you just touch it, the flashlight will turn on or off. But nothing really happened with that. And then before we left downstairs, when we were I was in the holding cell, and this is actually a little bit beforehand, when Kelly was in the women's cell. And this was after we had heard the door that we debunked, but before we had both left our respective areas. Now, this was also the time where the other group was still in the sheriff's quarters. There is a clip that I have that sounds like a voice. And again, at this point, everybody else was in the sheriff's quarters. Kelly and I were the only 2 people there. So we're going to insert that clip here. I don't know what it says. If you guys have any idea what it says, please let us know in the comments. But I'm also going to insert another video of one, because shortly after we caught this video or this clip, the other group came in from the sheriff's quarters. And I'm going to insert a clip right now that's going to be of those people talking. So you can hear the difference of what we caught versus the other people talking. There's some voices right now. Those are people. So again, go listen to both of those, listen back. Let us know what you think. In that first clip, if you hear any words, let us know what you think it's saying. But it definitely was interesting. But we're not going to say it's paranormal because there were too many people there.
Yes.
But it sounded different enough for us to bring it to your attention. Then we went upstairs.
We did.
Now, when we went upstairs, the other group actually, I don't even think there was another part of upstairs that we didn't even go to.
I walked over there.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
I
walked
did.
over there. It was like kind of like living quarters.
Okay.
Not much was happening when I was over there. I was more intrigued by the cells up there.
Yeah.
I kept kind of feeling like I was more drawn back to them.
Okay. Yeah.
What was the name of our guide upstairs?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. So we will call him
Snake.
Snake.
Yeah. Because you talked to him about snakes.
I did talk to him about snakes.
Yeah. Not because
I
he
did.
was a snake, but because Kelly had a conversation with him about snakes.
Yes.
I went into one of the smaller cells that are up there, and I cannot stress how tiny these cells are.
Very tiny.
The downstairs cells were much bigger and more spacious. These cells had 2 bunk beds on each side, and literally when I turned around in these cells, my shoulders would touch the bunk beds. That is how small they were, and it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, there's no room in there.
So I went and sat in one of the cells, and this is actually when Kelly was having the conversation with Snake about snakes. And I had my EMF meter just sitting on the bed next to me. I did get a couple of little hits, nothing consistent, nothing that was responding to any questions, but there were some little hits on my EMF meter.
I went over to this other cell upstairs, like kind of right across from where you were.
It was
I think,
across.
directly across. And there were no bunk beds in it. So
No.
Snake was telling me that this room, before the jail shut down, they were trying to make that room into like a wet room, like a shower room with maybe a toilet or something for the inmates. And when I walked in there, the first thing I noticed is that I felt off balance. I felt like kind of not dizzy, but kind of unsteady on my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I'm kind of a klutz, so it's not necessarily outside a possibility for me, but it was enough to make me take note.
Yeah, noteworthy. Now, this is the cell that the guide Snake told us they reportedly is home to an elemental. Now, Kelly and I really had no idea what an elemental spirit was, so we Googled it. And according to Google, elemental spirits are supernatural beings that personify the 4 elements of earth, water, air, and fire. They appear in ancient Greek philosophy, occult, and alchemical works, and in some demonologies.
When I was in the cell, I felt unsteady on my feet a little bit. It was very cold in there, too. It seemed to be a lot colder than the other cells, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
No. And this was the cell that Snake said people repeatedly got scratched in.
Yes. And I had turned my back to the inside of the cell, and I was talking to Jen, who was now standing right outside the cell.
My camera battery had just died, which not unusual. Again, we bought cheap cameras and we did have extra batteries. So I was just replacing the battery right outside the cell.
And I heard what sounded like a growl in the cell behind me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think I just heard a growl. So we decided that we were going to try a technique of paranormal investigating that neither one of us had really ever tried before.
Yeah.
It's called the Estes Method. Now I'm going to give you just a really brief history of the Estes Method, like really brief.
Very brief.
And then tell you kind of what it was. But it involves a spirit box. We've talked about a spirit box before. And a spirit box it's like a little radio that you hit sweep, and it cycles through radio stations really quickly. So it doesn't settle on one radio station long enough to hear anything. It sounds just like a lot of static.
Yeah.
But it's switching through those frequencies. And it is said that spirits can use those frequencies to communicate, to say words that you can hear audibly with your ears through it. So the Estes Method is a paranormal investigation technique primarily associated with the spirit box while employing sensory deprivation to potentially facilitate communication with spirits And it gets its name from Estes Park, Colorado, where the method was developed during investigations at the Stanley Hotel, famous for inspiring Stephen King's The Shining novel. The method is credited to researchers Carl Pfeiffer and Connor Randall, who utilized the location to refine this unique approach to spirit communication. So I thought it's not like the last name of a person.
Yeah, that
it's
is
about
interesting.
Estes Park, Colorado.
I didn't know that.
So
That's cool.
it is really cool. A very key point of this is the sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
So you use like noise canceling headphones. We had just wired earbuds with us.
But it's so loud in your ears that you can't hear anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And we also used, I was going to bring an eye mask, but I forgot it. So Jen had a headband. But another important part of it is to have your eyes covered. You can't hear anybody speaking and you can't see their lips move to know that they just said something.
No, nothing.
It's just you, completely sensory deprivation. And I'm sitting on the cold floor of a soon-to-be shower cell in an old jail where something just growled. Actually, Jen went first.
I did go first.
Jen went first.
Yeah. It was an intense experience. And I recommend for anyone who's interested, give it a try, because you just have to let go of all of your senses. And honestly, you can't really focus that hard on what you're hearing either, because then you're not going to hear things, and there's going to be so much words do come through from radio stations, and most of it's inaudible that you really, because it's so quickly. But when you hear an actual word, you call the word out. And
the other person that's with you with it, they're asking questions. They're asking the spirits to communicate with them using the person who is under the Estes method as like a conduit of like, use them to speak to me.
Right.
And it is true that you can't concentrate too hard on what you're hearing.
Yeah.
Because that really makes the noise very muffled.
Absolutely. And I think too, it takes away some of that. Like, we all know, you hear an EVP and someone immediately says, "Oh, I thought that just said get out." And now that's the only thing you can hear is get out. Whether that's what you would have originally heard or not, we don't know. And I think it's similar with the spirit box. If you're just listening to it, on a speaker, you are hearing what your ears want you to hear. You just asked a question, and a lot of times you're putting together the words that you want to hear based on the question you just asked. So with the Estes method, you don't know what the question is.
Not at all.
And
you literally can't hear anything but static.
And a lot of what you call out are random words that don't necessarily make sense. But what's intriguing is when you get something that makes sense.
It's a direct response to something somebody has asked. And it does take a minute when you first go under to like kind of take a deep breath, relax, and stop concentrating so hard.
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
What exactly it is. Like every noise that's coming. Did you hear that? I have no idea.
Okay.
It does take a minute to kind of relax and not try to concentrate on every single noise that you hear. And then things do start to pop out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we are going to post the full videos of both Kelly and I doing the Estes method, because we both went under, on our Patreon. So if you want to watch it, go join our Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to all this footage. Sorry, Ad Me came out. But we are going to talk about it on here and some of the interesting responses. Now, if you go watch the actual footage, you're going to see a lot of random words that come through, as we said. Not everything makes sense. And the thought process, too, is especially if you're in a place that is known to have multiple spirits, you could have multiple spirits trying to communicate with you at once. So it can get very loud. And, if you're under and a lot of words and stuff coming through that may or may not make sense. But when I was under, I think the first cool thing is Kelly asked, "Do you have a message for us?" And as soon as she asked that, I responded with, "What do you want?" I thought that was a pretty cool response.
Yeah.
At one point in time, Kelly asked, "Can you tell me the name of the sheriff?" And I responded, "Dead," which the sheriff is dead. So, Kelly said, "Do you hate it in here?" And the response was, "I didn't."
Yeah.
And then Kelly said, "What are the conditions like?" And I said, "Damp." Now, remember, we were sitting in the room that was supposed to be the shower room. That was interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, I just said a random word. I said kill. And then I said stop me. And then I said victim. And right after I said victim, Kelly said, "Who was your victim?" And as soon as she finished that sentence, I said Jim McDonald, which I think that was probably one of the best responses that we got.
Yeah.
A name right after a question.
Also, after you said Jim McDonald, you said corpse.
Did I?
You said corpse. It was like, yeah, because you killed him. He's a corpse.
He's a corpse. That makes sense. I tried so hard to search for anybody that possibly could have died in Florida during the time that this old jail was open named Jim McDonald. And I could not find anything. I tried Find My Grave, Ancestry. I went on all the sites yesterday and attempted to find anybody that could have possibly maybe been murdered. And I couldn't find anything, but I still thought it was a pretty cool response.
Yeah.
A couple of other just random words that I said. At one point I said moisture, which was really super random. Freedom, which again, being locked up in an old jail. Murder, hate. I said the word dead 3 times.
Yeah.
And I think the craziest thing I heard was a growl.
Which is crazy.
Straight up heard a growl.
It is crazy because I heard a growl in that exact spot.
Yes.
Right before we started the Estes Method.
Yeah. And if you watch the video, if you join our Patreon and you see my face when I'm under, I was just like, oh, I just heard a growl.
Yeah.
And I get excited, but also scared. I make that face where Kelly knows my face. Whenever anything paranormal happens, I'm like a little scared, but also really excited that something's happening.
And then a really fun part of Jen's Estes Method is when I try to bring her out of it and scare the literal shit out of her because I touch her.
That is also included in the video. So you guys will see me jump. I may have peed a little, but that's fine. There is no good way to bring someone out of the Estes Method.
There's really not.
No. If you ever do the Estes Method, please specify what part of your body you want touched to bring you out. Otherwise,
we didn't do that.
We did not do that. They're going to scare the shit out of you because you are under, you can't hear, see, feel anything, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
So after I was done, Kelly went under. And the biggest thing I think I noted from Kelly is there were a lot of references about movement. Kelly said a lot of times move over here, over there, come here. Multiple times she said that. So at one point, you can even see in the video, I get up and kind of go stand in the door of the jail cell because she kept telling me to come closer.
And then I tell her to leave.
Yeah. Then she tells me to leave. So the spirit didn't really know what it wanted. At one point, that was right after she said quiet after I came in, and then she told me to leave. Now, in this period of time, she told me to be quiet 8 times.
And listen, when I would hear the word quiet, it wasn't like quiet. It was like I would hear it said like quiet. It was like an angry quiet.
Yeah. 8 times. I counted 8 times. It was insane and very rude. And each time she said it, I yelled at the spirit and said, "Don't tell me to be quiet. You're being rude." It didn't like me for some reason.
And it was confusing to me being under, not knowing why I kept hearing that same word. It's weird when you hear the same words over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Kelly also said a lot of names when she was under, but they weren't really responses to anything. She also said at one point she heard a deep growly voice, but she couldn't really make out what it said. And I think the funniest thing you said was eggplant.
Eggplant, yeah.
Uh-huh. She said at one point, get me out. She said, leave him 3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Kelly was under a little longer than I was because at that point, we didn't really know how much longer we had to investigate. So she got me out a little bit quicker. And then I was kind of just being like, oh, I'm just going to let her go until we're done. And then it finally got to the point where I was like, and I'll tell you why I ended it in a little bit, but we ended hers. Now, at one point in time, I said, why did you get locked up? And she responded with Jim, which I thought was interesting because when I was under and she said, who was your victim? I said, Jim McDonald. So why did you get locked up? Jim. I thought that was interesting.
He was a corpse because he was your victim.
He was a victim and a corpse. And I think probably one of the coolest things with Kelly is there was another group that was in that area. And if you join Patreon and watch the video, you're going to hear the other group talking. And I think they were using GhostTube. And one of the women that was there was asking, what is your son's name? So I guess they got something about son or whatever. And as they were asking this, Kelly kept repeating the name Wayne. And I didn't really make the connection the first time she did it. But then the second time she did it, because they kept asking the question, I made that connection like, oh, are they answering that question? So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
At one point, she said, he's here. And I said, who's here? And she responded with Nolan. So
I don't even remember that.
A name in response. Now, at that point, there was the other group that was there was kind of listening. And they said that they got the name Norman, I think, on GhostTube. And then I said, oh, did you mean Nolan or Norman? Can you say Can you say that name again? And she said Wayne. So she did say a name again that she had already said. So I had to give her credit for it. At another time, she said the word friendship. She actually said the word friendship twice. And then I said, did you have a friend here in your cell? And she responded with fell. And I said, did you fall? And she said, he fell. So I thought that was a little interesting back and forth.
Yeah.
And then shortly after she said the name Timothy, she then said killing him. And I said, oh, was your friend hung? And she said jump, which I guess maybe you jump when you're I don't know. I said, who is here? No, she said, he is here with us. And I said, who is here? And she said the name Johnson. So again, she said a lot of names at random times, but I'm pointing out the names that kind of came in response to what I was asking. And then I asked, what did you think about the sheriff? Did you like him? And a very stern no came out of Kelly. Then she said, the end. And I said, oh, are you done talking to me? And she said, end. And I said, okay, did you have anything else to say before we stop? And she said, hold up, bloody, not here. And then that's all. And when she said that's all, that's when I ended it. So I thought that was interesting that she had kind of said like end. And I was like, oh, are we done? And then she said, hold up. And then gave me a couple more words. And then that's all.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, absolutely wild.
Our experience at the old jail, it was a cool experience. We had some interesting things happen. Again, we can't say any of it's paranormal.
No.
The Estes Method, I think, is our strongest evidence, I guess, that you would say that we have from there.
Right. But again, I want to point out with the Estes Method, there were a lot of random words that came through that didn't make sense. So if you do go watch the video on Patreon, you'll hear that. But we just kind of highlighted some of the things that made the most sense with what we were asking.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just sounds a little like nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely.
After that, the next night, I guess?
It was 2 nights later.
2 nights later.
No, actually it was a couple because that was Thursday.
Oh, yeah. This was Sunday night.
Sunday. Yeah, Sunday night.
I left Monday.
Yeah, it was Sunday night.
we were just hanging out in her apartment, and Jen's friend Stefan came over.
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to put the audio of the Estes Method on Patreon?
Yes.
Okay.
For Patreon members, you're only going to get the audio of the Estes Method from my apartment, because neither of us were in any condition to be on film. We did film it, but we don't want to show you because we look like a hot mess.
Yeah.
So you're just going to get the audio. Sorry.
One of the things that our friend Stefan, I'm friends with Stefan too.
Yeah.
He was doing is he had just restarted his Bumble profile.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to hear him talk a lot about Bumble, and he seemed to think that the spirits were communicating to him about Bumble.
About Bumble. Yes, he did.
He was very stuck on that. However, we did have some interesting things. I don't remember. You went under first.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So Jen goes under. It's me and Stefan. And from her session, these are some of the kind of the cool things, questions and responses that she said. First, I said, Ellen, if you're here, can you let us know? And Jen said, true, which it wasn't necessarily a yes, but it is kind of a response to that.
It is a little bit.
Then I'm explaining to Stefan that because Jen said a couple words that didn't really fit. And I'm telling him sometimes words just come through, he had never seen this before. And then I said, this is our friend Stefan. Can you say hello? And Jen said, welcome.
Yeah, that
and I was like, oh, pretty cool. Okay, that's really cool.
And as you said, and I was under, so I didn't know, but I obviously watched the video. That is the moment that we think Stefan took his attention away from Bumble and was like, kind of. He was still on Bumble for sure, but he was much more like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we're kind of talking here and there. And Jen said something about lady. She said the word lady. And I asked Stefan if he was talking to a lady on Bumble. And Jen said female. And then Jen said app. which
was so random. And I think even when I said it, I was like, app? Like, why am I getting the word app? Like, how is that an answer?
When you listen to the audio, you can hear the notifications of his Bumble app going off as he's talking to people. Yeah. Stefan asks if the lady he's talking to on the app is good or bad for him. And Jen says, come play close to me. And I was like, ooh, Ellen's getting flirty. Then Jen said, go play. And Stefan, of course, takes that as Jen is saying, like, the spirits are telling him to go play with this woman on Bumble.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jen says, insured by me. Stefan and I wonder out loud if Ellen is saying, go play with the woman you're talking to. She's insured by me. Like, she's okay. I, Ellen, am saying she's okay. She's a good person. And as we're wondering that out loud, Jen says, yes. Then Jen says, you're big.
Oh, God.
And then we joke that she must be talking about Stefan.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jen said, Ellen. And that blew my mind.
Yeah. The fact that Ellen came through on the spirit box.
Yeah. So those were kind of the highlights of Jen's session.
Yeah.
Now, it's weird when because you don't know anything that you're saying if it makes sense or not. So when you go back and you listen to it and you kind of see what's happening.
Yeah. And we watched it back after each session because, Kelly, you did a couple of sessions.
I did it twice.
Yeah. And we watched it back after each session.
So some of the highlights from mine, because we were talking to Ellen. We were asking Ellen if she wanted to stay at Jen's apartment.
Yeah, that was the whole point of us doing it. We wanted to ask Ellen if she was comfortable staying with me. Right.
This is also the same night that Jen was talking about earlier in this episode where our REM pod, my REM pod was there. And once Stefan got there, it just kept going off.
Yeah, didn't go off any other time.
Nope. But when Stefan was there, it was going off pretty consistently.
Yeah.
So Jen asks, do you want to be in my apartment anymore? And I said, I don't know. Jen said, do you want to leave? And I responded, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Then I say 4 of them. Jen says to Stefan, including Ellie, there are 4 of us here. And I said, 4.
Ellie's my dog.
Yes. Then Jen says, are there 4 spirits here? And I say, no. And then I say, quiet.
Which same thing she said at the old jail.
You'll hear it in the audio when I hear quiet. I'm like, quiet. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this word is coming through again.
Quiet again. Yeah.
Jen starts to tell Stefan that we got a bunch of quiets at the jail. And I responded with, you. So Jen said, do you want me to be quiet? And I said, stop.
Something doesn't like me.
Jen then tells Stefan to ask me the questions. And I respond with, not you, him.
Yeah.
And Jen says, who do you want to be quiet? And my response was, make her stop. And then I randomly say, I like him.
Yeah.
And Jen said, do you like Stefan? And I said, not you. And Jen said, you don't like me? And I said, not you, him. So then randomly I say, where are you? And Jen says, we're right here. And I say, not you, him.
Yep.
My mind is blown. I'm like, why do I keep saying this? Why do I keep hearing this? Then I say, he was here. Jen says, who was here? Can you say Stefan's name? And I said, no, you do it. So Jen says, Stefan, and asks if I can say it. And I said, not you, only him.
Only him.
Then I say, he's coming in. And Jen asks, who's coming in? And I said, Richard.
Yeah, random name.
Then I felt Jen touch me on the shoulder, so I thought our session was over. But I was confused because we had agreed that we would touch each other on the knee to bring each other out. So I'm kind of like, what? Did you just touch my shoulder? And Jen says, no.
No.
And I'm in disbelief. I'm like, you didn't just touch my shoulder. And she's like, you can watch the video.
Yeah.
I felt somebody touch my shoulder.
Yeah, I did not touch her shoulder.
So we decided after that I was going to go back under.
Yeah, because we got such good responses with her.
Right. Jen asks, once I go back under, is Richard here? And I said, move. Jen said, who do you want to move? And I said, you know. This spirit is very sarcastic with Jen.
Very sarcastic. It does not like me. I don't know who this is. If it's Ellen, Richard, whoever the fuck we're talking to.
I don't think it was Ellen.
No.
I don't think it was Ellen. Then I say, come here. Followed by, young man, come here.
Yeah. So then Stefan got up at this point and went over towards the REM pod where Ellen was sitting, the doll.
Yeah. Jen says, can you touch Kelly again? And I respond, no. Then in the audio, you will hear Jen's dog chewing on one of her little chews. And you hear Jen say, you can hear Ellie chewing on her chew. And I say, drop it, which is a command that Jen would teach her dog when she wants her dog to drop something. I know this because she taught me to teach Boogie that.
Exactly.
Which was really weird that we're talking about the dog. And then I give a dog training command.
Yeah.
Then I say, stop. And then followed with, only him.
Yep.
I randomly say, we're watching, everyone.
Yeah.
Jen
Which is a little creepy.
Yeah. Jen says, well, you can watch. And I said, no, not me. So Jen asked, well, who is watching? And I said, the devil's trap, which was really freaky.
Really freaky. I don't like that one.
No. And then I said, not you. So Jen asks, Ellen, do you not like me? And I said, almost. We're slow.
Which is better than a no, I guess.
But then I say, the bad guy. And then I follow that up with, no, he won't scare him.
Yeah, that was weird.
Jen said, where's Richard? And I said, he's gone.
Yeah.
And then I say, only him, not you. And then you'll hear Jen say, right after I say this, that Ellie, her dog, just climbed on her lap. But she climbs on her lap and I say, get the dog.
Yeah.
And Jen's like, oh, Ellie just climbed on my lap. Jen says, I have her. Is she safe? And I said, no, she knows.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
But then I follow it up with, no, she's safe. The dog.
Yeah. I was very persistent at that point. I was like, don't hurt my dog.
Right. So I'm like, no, she's safe. The dog, not you, by the way. The dog is
the
safe.
Dog. Just the dog is safe. That's really all I care about.
But then I said, we like him and we like her.
Yeah. But not me. Just the dog and Stefan.
Then
not
I
me.
say 4 of them, not you. So then I randomly say, cute dog.
Yeah.
And I say, we have a couple. And Jen says, a couple of what? And I said, pets. They're clean.
Yeah. we have pets. They're clean.
Yeah, they're clean. Jen said, do you have dogs or cats? And I said, you're stupid. It's up to him now. Jen then says, we're going to bring Kelly out. Are there any final words? And I said, puppy, come here, puppy. And then I said, pets, not you. No, him. So Jen said, any final words? And I said, pretty girl. And Jen said, me? I'm pretty? And I said, yes. And Jen's like, oh, thank you. So Jen says, we're going to end the session now. Any last words? And I said, so stupid.
So I'm pretty, but stupid.
You can't have it all, Jen.
I can't have it all.
You can't have it all.
I can't ask for everything.
But what came through a lot is I was saying at the jail, was I saying like not you or him or
you
what
did
was
say
it?
You did say not you once at the jail.
Right. And I kept telling Jen to be quiet at the jail. Then I say quiet here. And this prevailing theme that kept coming through was not you, him. Not you, only him.
Only
and
him.
It was really weird, but
it was.
The REM pod's going off. Stefan is there. Clearly something is happy that Stefan is there. And then, as Jen was saying in the beginning of the episode, twice now she's had her REM pod on. Stefan has called her.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Something just touched my foot.
Ellie's not under there?
No, she's in her bed. Like, I thought it felt like Ellie brushed by my foot.
I saw you look down.
I looked down and Ellie is laying in her bed. It felt like a dog fur brush across my foot.
Well, we were just talking about the pets in your apartment.
We were. Apparently, I have paranormal pets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was a weird that was not a feeling I've ever felt before, like a random weird pulsating body feeling. I've never felt that before.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to know if it's dogs or cats, you're stupid.
I'm stupid. It's a dog. It's both, right? But they're clean.
Right. They are clean.
They are clean.
So like I was saying, Jen was saying earlier in the episode, twice now, Stefan has called and she's had her REM pod on and her REM pod has just gone off.
Yeah.
I think Ellen likes Stefan or whoever we were talking to. Whoever we were talking to is a big fan of Stefan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Well, it is clear that this grim and storied location, St. Augustine Jail, is more than just a piece of history. It is a place where the past refuses to stay buried. From the infamous criminals who walked its halls to the countless spirits that are said to linger, the old jail is a testament to the suffering and injustice that shaped its legacy. And that brings us to the end of our part 2 of the old jail in St. Augustine.
If you loved what you heard, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. Your support helps us reach more listeners and share even more spooky stories.
Yes, and eventually we would love to be able to afford to go out and investigate in more places and bring you more episodes like this. So please support us.
Please.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at notmyghostpodcast and on Facebook at notmyghost, not my problem. We post updates, photos, and more.
If you want even more ghostly content, consider joining our Patreon, where we have some fantastic exclusive perks for our supporters.
Including all of the evidence from today's episode.
Yes, all of it. And if you've ever had a spine-tingling paranormal encounter, share your story with us at notmyghostpodcast@gmail.com. And you just might hear it featured on a future episode. And by might, we mean you will.
100%. Thank you for joining us on this haunting journey through history. Remember, the next time you're investigating a paranormal location, keep this in mind.
It may not be your ghost,
but it might still be your problem.
Until next time, stay spooky
and stay skeptical.